My name is Elena Krasnow. Welcome to Press Play, the StreetCred podcast. I'm so grateful you're here. I'm the marketing manager at StreetCred PR and your host for today's show, along with our founder and guest co-host, Jason Lahita, who is joining me for this special conversation in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month. For today's episode, we'll be doing something a little different. Julie Johnson of XY Communication is joining us today to talk about something that is near and dear to all of our racing hearts: anxiety. Quick disclaimer, none of us are psychologists or certified mental health professionals. We are simply human beings getting vulnerable in the spirit of this month. And though we do not claim to be mental health experts, we can say with certainty that we are not alone. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, anxiety disorders are the most common mental health concern in the US, affecting over 40 million adults, or 19.1% of the population. And more than 60% of people do not seek treatment for their anxiety symptoms. In light of these findings, we wanted to invite a candid conversation about anxiety in the industry, and we could think of few guests better equipped to tackle this important topic. Julie Johnson is the CEO of XY Communication and a leading authority on intergenerational and gender communication, specializing in psychological safety and conflict management. Julie is a certified behavioral finance trainer, a certified facilitator in Adam Grant and Ray Dalio's Principles U program, a certified Brene Brown Daring Way facilitator, a globally licensed member of the International Coaching Federation, and is a certified global speaker through the National Speaker Association. As a current member of the Forbes Coaches Council and a former Barron's winning senior vice president with UBS, Julie has devoted her career to helping professionals and teams build trust, engagement, and loyalty. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Elena, thank you. And Jason, thank you guys so much. That is, wow, it's a mouthful when you hear it read out loud. I'll need to tweak that a little bit.
I gotta
Yowza.
say,
Thank you.
people's reactions to hearing their bios is one of my favorite moments in the show. It's always some version of like, that couldn't be me. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Hello.
That's right.
You've achieved a lot, Julie.
You
Thank
are
you,
certified in many areas.
Oh, brother. It's, it's all to make sure that the irony is so much of it is so I feel like I've got the right credentials, right? It's not necessarily for other people, it's for myself, which is
Totally.
Again, a big part of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, we are so grateful to have you here with us, and we're really looking forward to this discussion. The three of us have been manifesting this for, I don't know, like a year.
Yeah.
So very exciting that this is coming to fruition.
Whatever year it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all know a nutritious diet is essential to supporting our physical and emotional well-being. So we would be remiss if we didn't ask you the question we ask all of our guests, which is, what did you have for lunch today?
The funny thing is it's 1:15 my time, and I literally just inhaled food. So I know that that's very common for all of us. I had a chicken salad thing. But in the interest of discussion as far as diet and whatnot, what I've found has been a massive need for change on my part was I have cut way down in my alcohol consumption.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have a glass or two of wine 3-4 nights a week, and now I have maybe a couple glasses of wine once a week, and it has made a world of difference.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the regular nutrition and sleep and all the stuff, especially as we get older, I'm not going to state my age necessarily, but it just makes a world of difference. So it's not as much fun, but it makes us feel better and it makes the days better. So it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we may get to this a little bit later in the show. There's no question that, if you overdo it with the booze, that has a dramatic effect on your brain. I mean, I used to, and there are many factors that contribute to this, but when I'd have a speaking engagement the following morning, if I happened to go out to an industry event the night before, and then the next day I was even feeling a little fuzzy, that dramatically impacted my ability to perform.
Yep.
And that coupled with all the other variables, yeah, that's a no-no.
Not worth it.
Totally.
It
And
gets
actually, anxiety and being hungover have a lot of similar
Oh,
symptoms. So adding the two together is not a good cocktail, so to speak.
Indeed.
no,
Pun.
every pun intended.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's why I don't really drink, period, but especially at conferences until like I'll let myself have maybe 2 drinks on the last night if I'm feeling fun. But yeah, I just need to have my head straight, and alcohol has a big impact on that even the next day.
Yes.
Okay,
Indeed.
let's get into this long-awaited discussion. Referring back to some of the stats that I just mentioned at the beginning, it's very clear that anxiety is a prevalent issue all across the country. What do you guys see as some of the main kind of bigger picture factors that are driving this?
You want me to go?
Go ahead, Julia.
Okay. So as you know, I work especially, I work with all generations, but when working with younger generations, people in their 20s and 30s, I especially am reminded of the amount of pressure from social media, whether it's, the older school LinkedIn, more nuanced Twitter or X, Instagram, there's a lot of pressure. You guys are a PR agency, right? I mean, you know better than anybody. There's so much pressure to sort of keep up with the Joneses, to keep up with whomever our, peers are. And I've done a lot of research in these respects that so often we put on our best face on social media, like everything's perfect. Back in, 20 years ago when I was an advisor, it was Facebook. Um, on Facebook, I looked fabulous. Things were great. We were winning awards. Everything was perfect. And I was having so much inner turmoil because of anxiety and stress that I was going through. But I was in denial, right? I
Yeah.
had my blinders on. Everything was great. No one really knew that I was having so much trouble. So it's, and then that's what we see, right?
Mm-hmm.
See everyone else that looks so happy and so great. Their business must be skyrocketing and they're not struggling at all. And they're, everything that they're going through is working perfectly. Why do I suck?
Yeah.
Is how I would feel. And so it's really just trying to put things in perspective, I think, about how doing the best we can to find our own lane, doing the best we can to have gratitude for the things that we are accomplishing, to not feel, and this is so easy to say, much harder to do, to maybe not feel quite so challenged when we're feeling vulnerable. And actually, I've loved, and we're all walking, talking examples of this, walking, talking, posting examples of, ironically, some of the best engagement we get on social media is when we share our vulnerability. And so I think it's really just, you know what? We don't have to always have a brave face. We can share what's going on with
So
us.
true.
And it builds so much empathy and engagement and trust. And, it just is, that's what I found. I'm going to officially be quiet because I could talk about that the whole time.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think social media is certainly part of it. And I think social media is part of a larger issue, which is just information overload and this pace of comms in the world. Everyone is on their phones. You have more computer power in the palm of your hand than anyone could possibly have imagined even 10 years ago, 15, 20, forget about
Yeah.
it, right? So you're always looking, you're just inundated, right? Like before this podcast, we talked like, can we all turn off our notifications? Because they're just going to continuously go the whole time. So you're inundated with information, whether you are seeking it or not. It's just coming at you 100 miles an hour. Everybody's got an opinion. Obviously, social media feeds into that. To your point, Julie, you're seeing some people behave a certain way on social and they're putting up this veneer of like everything is awesome. the Lego movie theme and let's just all dance into the sunset together. Like you're sitting there like, yeah, that can't be true. Like you've got to have some challenges and problems. Like not every single thing you post is magic, right? But that also impacts people who, by the way, who aren't as extroverted. So when you look at
Yeah.
seeing
So
someone
true.
who's like posting every 2 seconds and like they're seemingly everything's amazing, you're sitting there like, do I have to put things, do I have to project that I'm super excited about my day and like talk about all these things openly? And maybe you don't, right? Like, and that's cool too.
Yeah.
But I think it's that inherent pressure of massive amounts of information, feeling like you're getting pulled into a sphere where you have to share, even if you don't want to. And I think
Yeah.
people just need to like chill out and sit back and
Yeah.
be like, I'm going to go at my pace. If I
Yeah.
Yes.
feel like posting about something cool I'm doing with my family, I'm going to do it. But I don't have to do that every day.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
it's
And
important
it's
to kind of
not,
have a balance.
and
Totally.
it's not 24/7 to your
Yeah.
point. I used to feel guilty when I wouldn't post things on the weekends
Right.
or at, 7
Mm,
o'clock at night. And I just can't, it requires so much energy sometimes.
yeah.
It depletes us, I think, to
Totally.
your point, especially of introverts, right? For some people, social media and receiving tweets, receiving whatever gives us a dopamine hit. Literally, for some of us, it gives us a cortisol hit. And cortisol is your stress hormone. And we don't want a cortisol hit. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So it's just each of us are individuals, to your point, Jason. And so I think it's really a matter of finding our own lane and doing what's best for us and our clients or our team and
Yeah.
not feeling badly about it, right? Just giving ourselves the grace to do what's best for us
Hmm.
and our crew.
Yeah. And had that ability to compartmentalize and kind of say, I'm going to put this on social, whether it's for work or for personal.
Yep.
And the engagement that it gets is not definitive of my personal value. Taking
Yes.
that out of the equation, I think was something that was really important for me in doing social media for work and just like removing the performance element of the posts from my own feeling of value and worth.
Mhm.
But yeah, to your point, Julie, I think something you said earlier that resonated with me when we are vulnerable on social media and do show our most human side and present ourselves as authentically as we can, sometimes those are the posts that get the most traction. And I think that just really validates the conversation we're having right now of people are starving for those kinds of stories because all they're seeing is the fluff and puff of everything's all good, Lego movie, etc. And what
Mhm.
they really want to see is how you are actually doing and how you're overcoming those struggles if you have them. I think that's a really good point.
And if I may interject, I know this is primarily, I think, for advisors and other financial professionals. However, um, this is also something very important for us to remember when we're having, advisor to client or wealth professional to client conversations, right?
Yeah.
As we work with more women, and obviously I won't get into my stats mindset because that'll again take us completely off the rails. But as we work with more women and we work with younger people, it's that authenticity and that vulnerability that engages them and that enables them to relax and feel like they want to work with us
Yeah.
because, right? So it's like, I loved the word you used, Jason, the veneer. It's such a
Hmm.
perfect word.
Yeah.
It's evolving, right?
Yeah.
We're evolving and we need it. I think it's never been more important to be able to do the best that we can to read our audience, right? So yes, what's going on for me and what's going on for them? If it's a team member, a peer, a client, and they just seem off, um, check in, right? We
Yeah.
need to check in with that and in an authentic, hey, you doing all right? Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah.
And it may take them off guard, but I don't think it's ever a bad thing, right? It anyway, I think we're getting into that more too later in the call, but just wanted to bring
Yeah.
that.
I mean, we say that with clients too, right, Jay? Like, read the room. If a client seems stressed, don't just like bulldoze forth with the agenda. Let's take a minute and assess what's actually going on and make them feel supported by us.
Absolutely. And that goes for, internal calls that we have and also preparation to speak to reporters.
Yeah.
You have to be in the right mindset. We just had a call earlier today with the client and talking about the right approach to preparing for an interview.
Yeah.
You cannot run out on the field and sort of give it a half effort. And if you're speaking to a reporter and a journalist on an important topic for you and your organization, you've got to bring the energy. You have to be in the right frame of mind. You have to want to be there,
Hmm.
and anything less is obvious. So that's one of the challenges of PR, and that's how sort of, that ties into everything that we do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to move us along. I would love to hear from both of you. What was a time that you struggled with anxiety at work, and how did you manage it? If you have any like tips or tactics you want to share with listeners as well, I think that would be amazing.
Sure. You want me to tee off on this one, Julie?
Take it away.
Well, it's not as simple as identifying that I was dealing with anxiety and then immediately fixing it.
Mm,
I'm one of the examples of somebody who grappled with this for years, and it affected a lot of different things. So first of all, I would say I am naturally more introverted, and I don't wear everything on my sleeve. And I tend to like to get to know my environment and get to know people before I open up. That's just part of my personality. I chose a very interesting profession as with that as my default, right? Because all I'm doing all day is talking to reporters and connecting journalists with them. But again, it makes sense in a way because PR people are meant to be in the shadows. You're not in the spotlight. You are the ones that are helping others to go into the spotlight. So, who knows when it actually took root, but back in 2010, my mother started showing signs of early onset dementia. I was at a PR agency. I, I was comfortable there. I liked the work, but it was clear that something was drastically wrong with her. So then that started to creep in. And when you have things like going on in your personal life on top of potentially other natural issues that are part of your DNA, it exacerbates it. We talked about how alcohol exacerbates anxiety, like personal stress and dealing with crisis
yeah.
also definitely does.
Hmm.
So not long after that, I started my first PR agency, and it carried over. I think the first time I noticed it, I was in a sales pitch meeting at the agency I mentioned before, in around 2010, 2011. I was sitting in the meeting and I had to do something very simple, which was introduce myself, talk about my background, who I was, what I do, why are we here,
Yeah.
and simply introduce myself. It's pretty simple. And I've done this 100 times in the past, thousands of times, actually. So I started to talk, and all of a sudden I could feel my heart beating like it was going to explode out of my chest and hit somebody in the face across the room. And I'm like, what is going on? And I could barely speak because my heart was pounding so fast. And all I had to do is say, hey, my name is Jason.
Yeah.
I run the Los Angeles office of so and so, and we're here today to do the blah, 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 blah. Couldn't even say basic words and
Yeah.
form a sentence. Now I muddled through and I managed to squeak through it. And then I quickly tossed the baton to my boss, who was in the room with me as well. And I remember when we came out of the building, I said to him, did you notice how weird that was? That like in the middle of me talking, I had like a crazy panic attack or something. I could barely breathe.
Mm.
And he looked at me, he's like, I didn't notice anything. What are you talking about? You're fine
Of
in the meeting.
course.
Like, dude, like, how did you not notice that? That was nuts. Like, that has never happened to me before. I'm usually pretty good in those types of settings. So flash forward, start the agency. When you start a business, you're responsible for being the spokesperson of the business. and had a lot of speaking opportunities. Some days those speaking opportunities would go very well. Other days they would go horribly wrong. Honestly, like there was one time I remember crystal clearly. I had an opportunity to speak at a Pershing event, and I was on stage at the event. I had some slides, and I got up there, and again, this really crazy thing happened where like my heart started beating out of my chest. I'm talking about public relations and finance, which is like riding a bike for me. And how the hell can I be standing up here in front of this room full of people feeling like I'm 3 years old and I'm just in the sea of chaos and like everyone's staring at me. It was like all of a sudden I was naked on stage and like people were just sitting there like, what the hell's happening to this guy? Right? At least that's what I thought. And that happened again and again and again. And it kept going on. And I just kept sweeping it under the rug and saying, it's just work stress, whatever. It's annoying and it's bullshit. And I'll fix it. I'll be better prepared next time I get on stage. Maybe that was it. I just didn't study what I was supposed to say. I didn't memorize my lines, right? Like it's a play. It's not a play.
Yeah.
It's not scripted. You're supposed to talk to people. Anyway, long story short, eventually I realized this is not going away. It's a problem. I need to get some help. So I went and sought help. I got it. And it turns out when you go to see somebody about all this stuff, they give you a whole bunch of tests. I took the depression one and I didn't have depression. I took the anxiety test. It was like it's like a 22-point scale. And I think I scored like a 21 on the anxiety scale and was like, oh, wow, like I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So then you learn about it, and then that's how I figured out I got to tackle this and make a move here. But it really affected everything. It affected my work, my confidence, my partnership, my ability to grow that business, to have any type of, everything sort of was in disarray because I kept ignoring the problem.
Yeah. Bingo. Oh, holy cow. So Jason, we're so, I resonate and empathize with so much of what you experienced. Number one. Number two, I'm so happy that you are here and you are smiling and you are, sometimes it takes hitting this, I don't know if we call it a bottom or a really super pivotal point, right? For us to finally realize, okay, take off the blinders and get some help.
Yeah.
For me, it was literally probably 10 years of pretending everything was fine. And then 2008 hit. I was the only female partner on a $1 billion AUM team. And my senior partner was supposed to retire that year. Needless to say, when 2008 hit, he didn't go anywhere, nor should he have, right? Yet, I was the person that our clients called. I was the person because, he was wonderful. He's so incredibly amazing and smart and all of those things. Yet, I was the relationship person. Right. So they would call me, they would scream and they would cry and they would yell and and at that point in time in my life, I might as well have been a sponge in a negative way because I absorbed all of their negative energy. And I didn't know how to. I was raised in a family, a gorgeous, wonderful, loving family. But it's an older school family that didn't understand therapy, didn't believe in therapy, keep a smile on your face, push through all the time, right? Just suck it up, basically. So that's how I was raised. That's what I did. And I sucked it up for so long. I would ignore my anxiety to the point where I literally started experiencing organ failure. So friends, whoever's listening, if you start experiencing anxiety, please get help.
Yeah.
Please talk to somebody because it took me, and my doctors were sending, so it started by my heart rate went very, very low. And so I ended up getting a pacemaker, which we were hoping would help, but it didn't help a lot of things. So I'm not going to get too deep into the story. Something though that was very sad and frustrating is my doctors were sending me to Mayo, to NIH, to all of these amazing doctors. And you will both be shocked, Jason, not one. And this is so 2010, 14 years ago. It's not back in the dark ages. Not one doctor asked me, what does your stress life look like? Not one. Which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever. So the point in all of that is we must advocate for ourselves.
Yeah.
We must, even if everyone around us is like, you don't need therapy, you're fine, just, breathe, go for a walk, get a good night's sleep, blah, blah, blah. Stay in tune and in touch with yourself. Find people who will talk to you and let you feel safe to just let it all out there. And try as much as we can, right, to take sort of the stigma away of asking for help. It doesn't mean we're weak. It doesn't mean we're less anything, less worthy, less strong, less anything. If anything, in my opinion, asking for help means we're confident, we're courageous.
Yeah.
Right? Same with showing vulnerability. So, we can live in this world of constant anxiety for so long. It often ends up catching up with us in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so just I invite and implore everyone listening, please, be in touch with yourself, be in touch with what's going on. Don't be afraid to communicate, ask for help, all that stuff.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I won't dive too deep into my own story with this, but I will definitely second everything that you guys said as far as, strategies to mitigate, like go talk to someone, find people who are in your corner. Don't hold your breath. Like, do you guys do that all day? I just catch myself and I'm like, I'm not even breathing right now. Like, why don't we start there? And then
I feel so lightheaded right now. Well, probably my body isn't receiving
so
any.
basic.
Yeah.
I mean, I just caught myself doing it as I was listening to you talk, Julie, and I was like, oh my God, breathe. Like, we're good. And Jason says this all the time to the team, but like take those little breaks in the day. Like if you feel yourself falling apart, don't just like continue to fall apart. Like take a step back, go for a walk, take a breath, like do whatever it is that is your little, cure in the middle of the day. Because there's always going to be time for that. You need to create time for that.
And it's different for everyone too, right? What works for me may not work for you, may not work for Jason. What works for Jason may not work for someone else.
Yeah.
And so it is a little frustrating that sometimes it requires a lot of trial and error to figure out what works. But I ask, just keep trying, don't give up till you figure something out that works.
Yeah, listen, there's no one size fits all solution when you're talking about this stuff. Every human being is unique. Everyone's DNA is unique. Whatever it is, I mean, you can try a whole bunch of different things to try to sort yourself out, and you have to, but you're gonna eventually have to land on what works for you. It's not going to be a cookie cutter thing, but the first step is like, hey, this is. And by the way, like, Julie said she's dealing with this for 10 years. I was the same. It's like, don't wait 10 years to sort yourself out. Okay.
No.
Like if you find what are the symptoms, you might have anxiety. Well, like first of all, there are tests that you can take, like the one I mentioned, where you've got all these different ways to grade things and you come up with a number. But here's, example, if you're on a call at work and you're like, I want to speak. I have something that I want to say, but I'm too nervous. Like my heart's beating out of my chest, or when I start to talk, like I lose my train of thought. I don't like the words are coming out of my mouth, but I feel disconnected from them. Those are all signs where maybe you need to take a step back. Like, why is this happening to me? And maybe talk to somebody.
Yeah. I heard it put one way the other day, like if you notice yourself disappearing in conversation, that's a good cue to pause and figure out where you're going and then get back to yourself.
That's
Um,
powerful. I've not heard that before, but
yeah,
man,
I
if I
like that
experience,
framing.
yeah.
Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit from both of your experiences. What strategies do you both feel financial services companies can be implementing to support employees with mental health and well-being, whether it be anxiety, depression, you name it?
So in my opinion, and this is, I'm a research junkie. My there are things that are being put out there, and what I hope is that the things that are being put out there are real and aren't just talk or show. Um, that could take us down a whole nother path, but I won't go there. So utilize, if your team, your firm, your whomever has resources, check them out, try them out. If they don't work for you, I mean, I probably went through 6 different interviews and meetings with therapists before I found one that matched what I needed. Right. So again, Elena, I apologize. I'm not really answering your question. But I guess my hope and my point is, um, don't not do it just because the resources maybe that you're finding aren't working for you. Keep trying, number one. Number two, for people in management, for people who are the ones, maybe HR, that are putting these anxiety, depression, mental health things out there, remember exactly what Jason said. It's not a cookie cutter thing, right? We've got to be a little bit open and curious about what will help different people. And as much as we can, show up for them in the way that they need.
Yeah.
And again, try as hard as we can not to make people feel judged, not to make people feel whatever. If and when they come to us saying, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And that's tough. Our industry is very unforgiving. And so, but the more communication like this, the better. So anyway, Jason, your turn.
I agree with all that. I also think, businesses have a responsibility to make sure you've got your health plans have options for this, that the mental health component is there. Like we've talked about, there's no one size fits all solution. But you've got to seek help, right? So I will say, like, if you can't just say like, I have anxiety, therefore I'm going to shut down and like not do anything, right? Like you have to, if you think you have it, if you think you have an issue, and it should be obvious to those who do that something is amiss, then it is your responsibility to try to go help yourself and try to figure out what's going on. Companies need to acknowledge that it is real, like depression and anxiety are real. They're real things and they impact people's ability to function. But then they also need to make sure that there are mechanisms in place to help their team members to seek help and find a solution, whatever that may be, right? And everyone's going to deal with it in their own way. For me, it's like, okay, I personally, like when I realized, I was stunned when I scored that high in the anxiety test, by the way. But once I realized that that was a reality, I was angry at myself because I took way too damn long to find something that would help me. And then I determined that I was going to crush this and I was going to go at it and attack it. And I got
I'm laughing with you, not at you.
No, I know, but I just got really mad. I'm like, how could I have been such a knucklehead that I let this impact everything in my life for over 10 years? And I feel like a moron, right? And I don't think I'm a moron generally, but in this instance, I 100% was dumb. So once you establish that, you got to go tackle it head on.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can't just throw your hands up and say, well, I've got anxiety, so the world is going to now have to adapt to me. No way. Get a grip. That ain't going to happen, right? The
Yeah.
world is never going to just like stop rotating because you've got some anxiety that you need to deal with. It's on you to sort yourself out, and it's on the people that you work with and your employer and business owners to create an environment where that help can be sought out and people can find solutions, period. That's it. So get after it, like realize you got an issue, figure out how you're going to tackle it, have people around you and at your organization that are going to support your efforts to find a solution that works for you, and then go and make it happen.
Yeah,
Jason, if I may, and Elena, I apologize. I'm gonna interject really quickly if that's okay.
of course.
Respectfully, I'm gonna throw in a little bit of a paradigm shift. Jason, I love your energy. I love the chutzpah, for lack of a better word, whatever.
It's a
However,
great word.
I ask, so a few things that you said, and I by no means am picking on you. Yet, this is unfortunately sometimes what our industry does, and what a lot of industries do, is they say, we say, okay, if something's wrong, I should know. I didn't know for 10 years. I was in denial. I ignored it, right? So, if you're not in tune with it, don't beat yourself up. But if once you maybe get a sense of, hey, I need help, yeah, reach out for help, right? I also agree with not being a victim, right? We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to figure out what works for us. However, I ask that we also give ourselves grace and patience in doing so. Because for some of us, when we beat ourselves up, it makes it worse. We want to go, I call it cave mode, right? I just want to go hide. Whereas slowly but surely, reaching out, talking to people. So I'm not maybe as, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but again, it's similar to the, non-cookie cutter resolutions or answers, right? This situation is different for everyone. So just do the best you can for you, right? So that's what I wanted to interject, Elena, before I really interrupted you.
Oh my gosh, you're totally fine. I think what Julie and I just want you to know, Jason, is you're not a knucklehead for not addressing it during that time. We do the best we can, and then when we know better, we do better, as I think Maya Angelou likes to say. And just to sort of beat that drum that you were just saying too, Julie, like you can also own your anxiety. Like I think that was a really empowering moment for me in my own journey, was just realizing that as much as this has been a battle for me, it's also a really beautiful part of who I am.
100%.
And I appreciate so much the community that I've built in financial services, which I certainly came into thinking it might not be the most forgiving environment for a vulnerable, soft soul like myself. And I've met so many people that have been so gracious with me and so kind, via social, via conferences, everything. And I think that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't worn my heart on my sleeve in the way that I do. So I also encourage folks to, own that as it can be a positive thing too, as hard as it can be sometimes.
You're such a glowing light, Elena. It's just, the vulnerability is one of the things that I love so much about you. Number one. Number two, again, statistics junkie here. I was creating a presentation the other day, and I was reading this study. It was from Cerulli or Pew or one of the wonderful, resources, right? And it stated, and I was shocked and heartbroken about this, it stated that 35% of financial advisors have a tenure of 1 to 2 years.
Wow.
So basically they're in, they see what's going on, and they leave. That's heartbreaking and hopefully a big ass wake up call.
Yeah.
You know, there's organizations like FinServe and so many fabulous organizations that are, and you know, even CFP, right? The younger generations, they're talking to people in their college years, which is so wonderful, right? Because we need these young advisors
Mhm.
desperately.
Yeah.
So I won't go down that tangent, but it's just we've got to make some tweaks and some changes in how we communicate and show vulnerability and show a safe environment for these young people, women, everyone, so that they don't leave us.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is, you know, in each of us talking a minute ago, it highlights the whole point, right? It's that you got to tackle this in your own way.
Yeah.
Like anxiety pisses me off. Like
Yeah.
Elena's thinks it's like part of her being, and it is,
Yeah.
right? Like, and
You,
we've all experienced it in different ways, but
So
it's going to
true.
manifest itself different with every person. Um, my mindset is like, I'm going to crush this, and I'm going to just, it angers me that it's even a part of my life because it cost me
yeah,
dearly.
Yeah.
same,
Over and over and over and over the missed opportunities, I mean, I attribute one of the reasons that the initial business I started in 2012, I'm no longer a part of it because of this. There are many
Yeah.
factors, but that's definitely one of them that contributed, right? Because I wasn't in a good state of mind.
same.
Um, so I do have this latent angst about it.
Yeah.
And I know it's a part of who I am, and I'm not trying to shy away from that. But at the same time, like, this is just how I do stuff. Like and everybody at StreetCred knows, like, when I get frustrated with something, like, I just tackle it and like get after it. And
Yep.
that's just sort of like in my DNA. But I think that,
Yeah.
again, the key is like figure out what it's if this is affecting you. Number one, obviously you have to identify an issue to be able to tackle it, right, or address it. And then two, handle it your way, but handle it. Like, don't sweep it under the rug. Don't be
Mhm.
like Julie and I, where you're like, I don't know that I even knew what was going on for the whole time, right? And I'm not going back and saying like you and I are, we should have done something sooner, because how do you know? You don't know.
Right.
Like, to your
Yeah.
point, that none of the
Just
doctors are even
denial.
telling you anything.
Yep,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, I know something's wrong. I just don't know what it is, but I never actually sought proper advice on
same.
this.
Yeah.
So now that I am aware, I gotta handle it the way I think is gonna work for me. But that's
Yeah.
everyone's gonna do their own thing.
Yeah. I love that you just turned that into like a microcosmic study, our last response. That's perfect. Um, all right. Well, I'm going to bring us into our last question, touching on, one of the other most important parts of any mental health battle, which is community and building community. We like to close the show with a moment of gratitude. So adapting that here, just give a shout out to someone who has been a support system for you in times of high anxiety, or even just like share a resource that's been helpful to you during those times.
Sure, I
For
could
me, it's been,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jason.
No, all you.
So
Knock it
I've
out.
been, getting into I came sort of out of the wirehouse space. I should probably be careful how I say this, but into the, behavioral finance space, right? And this community in the behavioral finance space, yourselves included, has just been such a savior for me, right? Um, and a handful of people. Tina Powell has been amazing. Both of you have been amazing. Diana Cabresis, Cheryl Hickerson, Justin Castelli. I mean, there's so many people where you talk to them, you call them, you walk up to them at a conference and you just give them a big fat hug and they give you a big fat hug back. And it's amazing. And again, I can't be more thankful than I am about this, additional community. So I think the point in that too, Elena, is if you don't have it where you are, seek it, because it is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'll say, look, I'd like to thank the industry at large, all my teammates at StreetCred.
Yeah.
I got up on stage a couple of years ago at the Jolt conference, which is my first time publicly speaking in probably like 4 or 5 years. And the reason I kept dodging things like that was because I was terrified of who that guy up on stage would be, and that he would embarrass himself in front of a room full of people. I hated that, and I was scared of it. I didn't like it, but when I did that, it was something where I'm like, if I'm going to speak at Jolt and sit on this panel and talk about PR marketing, I'm not going to sweep the elephant in the room away. Like, I have to address the fact that this is something that I've grappled with,
Yeah.
and that this is the first time I'm back since having dealt with it.
It was
And
such a brave moment.
well, yeah, and so thank you, Julie, for coming up to me afterwards. And
Yeah.
that's what the reason we're here today is. You were there in the room. We had a great conversation afterwards, got to know each other. Elena's been supportive the whole time as well. My partners at StreetCred are amazing. The entire StreetCred team is fantastic. And I wouldn't be able having a forum to be able to discuss this openly is awesome. So, I've thank everybody.
Love. Thank you both so much for joining the show for this conversation. I truly feel like this has been a little bit of a therapy session, but in the best way. And yeah, I hope that, these stories and the statistics we've shared and the numbers that Julie has mentioned, our numbers girl, resonate with everyone who's listening, and that you learn something that can really benefit you from today's conversation and feel even just a fraction more equipped to take on the world today. From Julie and all of us at StreetCred, we understand the importance of mental health and are so committed to making sure our team members, clients, and friends know that their humanity is never lost on us. Be sure to write us via email at pressplay@streetcredpr.com to tell us what you think, ask us any questions, or suggest any guests. Thank you again for tuning in to today's special episode, and we can't wait to introduce you to our next guest. Bye.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you.